A beautiful sunny day for the final regular season game up here in the 2016 Cape Cod League season. The Hyannis Harbor Hawks sit at 17-26 as they started the season 0-7, and now in the final regular season game ending the regular season 0-7 as well, as they are playoff bound in this 2016 season. They will be the 4 seed. They will take on the Falmouth Commodores this Friday. But first, a look back on what has been a fantastic and exciting season for this Harbor Hawks team. Hello and welcome in to this special Harbor Hawk edition where myself and the 4 of us here, we will sit down and discuss this great season for the Harbor Hawks. Jack Keffer alongside my broadcaster, Gabe Sustick. To my left, the statistician for the Harbor Hawks, Luca Valentino, and all the way to my right, the beat writer for the Harbor Hawks, Geoff Short. And guys, as I mentioned earlier, Hyannis starting the season 0-7 and ending it on an 0-7 streak as well. But in between, we saw a lot of talent and a lot of competition from this Harbor Hawks team. What did we like and what did we see really throughout June and July with this Harbor Hawks team?
I think from the middle part of the season, you saw the team get better. You saw the team improve. You knew early on that this team, continuity-wise, they weren't going to exactly find it early on in the month when it comes to fielding and just hitting. Some guys are going to be in different parts of the lineup, but I think you saw it turn around a little bit after that struggling start. Pitching got better, bullpen got better. You found your 3 big guys in Harrington, Naylor, and Cave. I think that was the biggest thing you saw from that, is that the hitting just got better. They did a lot better with runners in scoring position too.
Geoff, you came up a little bit late up here for the Cape Cod season, around July 4th, July 5th. What did you see coming in? You didn't really see the struggle start, but you kind of saw the peak of Hyannis when they were most competitive and winning a lot of games. What did you see from this Harbor Hawks team once you came in?
Yeah, I actually was very impressed when I first came up here. I had heard about the struggles, obviously following the team a little bit when I wasn't actually on the Cape, and so I saw the 0-7 start and kind of had low expectations, but by the time I got here, they had crawled their way to within, I think, 3 games of 500. So I saw a pretty determined team and a pretty perseverant team, actually, that I was impressed with. And I got here at a time where a lot of pieces were moving around. You talk about the pitchers that we lost, like Eubanks and Barnes, and I saw guys step up like Gonzalez and Justin Lewis. So I was pretty impressed with the perseverance of this team. And, they've kind of regressed a little bit here in the last few days, but for that middle section of the season, they solidified their playoff spot basically by just stepping up and having a next man up mentality.
Luca, with every success comes some struggles on the Cape season. What did you see from Hyannis? When did they most struggle, and what kind of led to those struggles this season?
I mean, obviously the biggest struggles were at the start of the season, and now we're seeing them again at the end, and it's really been kind of the same story. The pitching's been up and down, but generally it's been pretty good even in those struggles, and we've just seen an inability to hit the baseball. I mean, we've seen them score 6 runs here in the last 5 games. Early in the year, they only scored more than 5 runs once in that 7-game losing streak. So we're kind of seeing these demons start to haunt this team again, where they just can't scratch runs across.
And to go along with the hitting, I thought that one of the biggest turning points was when 3 of the best pitchers on this starting rotation in Alex Eubanks, Charlie Barnes, and Max Soroller had to leave due to innings limits and pitch start. I thought that they gave you a 1-2-3 punch in the middle of the week with Gonzalez at the end of it and Gonzalez at the start and Gavin at the end of it. And I thought that really struggled. The starting pitching really struggled after those 3 left. And I thought that was a big turning point in this season when you had to look to other guys in the bullpen.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest what-if you have of the season, is if you had Soroller, Eubanks, or Barnes for maybe a couple more starts here and there, what could they have done? If they could have stayed the entire season, what does that change mentally? You keep some guys in the bullpen that you could have. Maybe Justin Lewis doesn't start. Maybe Alex House doesn't start. And you have more guys that come out of the bullpen, and this team stays more unified. But that's what happens up here in the Cape League. You lose guys, but you did see the team find ways to bounce back and win games. Like we said, the pitching staff, bullpen, and starters did a great job to keep them in a lot of games. It's just the hitting could not come through for them the entire time.
You talk about the bullpen and you talk about the All-Stars for this Hyannis team. Zach Rutherford, obviously the MVP of the All-Star game. Hyannis had a great showing. Cameron Este, the Home Run Derby champion. And then, of course, Dylan Busby and Jordan Rogers starting on the left side of the infield for Hyannis. And then you move to the bullpen with Harrington, Naylor, and Garrett Cave as All-Stars. And they pitched the 8th and 9th innings strong. And they kind of solidified themselves as the core of this Harbor Hawks team. But other than the All-Stars this season, who were you most impressed by for this Hyannis team?
Well, I'm going to look at the guy you mentioned a little bit earlier, in Andrew Gonzalez. He's a guy that the first start of the year was phenomenal against Bourne, looked like he was going to be the ace of the staff, and then struggled a little bit in the middle of the season. His ERA got up to around 5. So to see him bounce back, these last 4 starts, you've seen him with an ERA just over 2, and he's re-solidified himself as the absolute ace of the staff.
Geoff, you kind of came up here mid-season, as we mentioned. Who did you really take a liking to right off the bat?
I'm going to look at Chris Hudgens behind the plate. And you talk about a guy that really caught a lot of innings this summer, and that's typically something you don't see too much on Cape Cod. I know last year being here, we saw a pretty good tandem where every other day our catchers would switch off. So for him to come up here and really be the stalwart behind the plate, and like I said, when I came up here, you had a lot of moving pieces. He was kind of the one constant, and he's actually provided a lot of pop in the offense as well. So they talk about his arm a lot, and his teammate at school, John Gavin, appreciated his arm behind the dish. But offensively, he also provided a spark for you that I think offensively Hyannis was really appreciative of.
Gabe, who do you got to go with this one?
I have to say Cody Henry. I really like what he has given you. I know the strikeouts are high on him, and I know part of that is doing the switch hitting and going to different sides of the plate every time, but he's shown power on both ends. I mean, without him, you don't know where your record could be at that point. He was a key part to some of your big wins, and he's been your main guy at first base the entire season. He's taken a beating over there sometimes. You can see the improvement there as well. I think Cody Henry's just been a huge part, even with all the strikeouts you can say and how he swings a lot, but some of those swings he doesn't make, you may not have as many wins as you are right now.
You guys all know how much I like Cody Henry, and he'll be back as we progress in this Hawk Talk, but I've got to go with most impressed. It has to be Ford Proctor, the guy who complimented Zach Rutherford, who's hitting .283 on the season right now, and he just seemed to get hits when Hyannis needed it. He had big games. He was always on base. He leads the team with 18 walks, and as a freshman coming up here, an All-American from Rice University at a big school, I mean, he just brought energy to the ballpark every single day, and from the left-handed batter's box, he was a consistent guy in the 2-hole. I thought that he was fantastic. Guys, we talk about most impressed. Who did you look at and say, wow, this guy really progressed throughout the season, or who were you most surprised by, really, when it came down to it? A guy that came up that you were kind of unsure about who just made a big impact?
Well, I'm going to throw it to one of the All-Stars in James Harrington. And we saw at school he was predominantly a starter, had an ERA of over 6. You really weren't looking for a ton of him up here. And then he's just been fantastic. ERA below 2, was an All-Star out of the bullpen. And every time he comes in, you think he's going to be lights out. 11 of his 13 appearances are scoreless. And you just always trust when he comes in that the game's going to probably stay where he came in.
We saw a lot of that with starting pitchers moving into the bullpen and getting big roles, including Garrett Cave. We'll get to him a little bit later. Geoff, who were you most surprised by or impressed with down the stretch?
I'm going to go with Pete Zyla, the outfielder. And when I first came up here, he was stepping into the starting lineup really for the first time, replacing Trey Truitt, who was off Cape for personal reasons for about a week. So I got to see him pretty much every day as the regular right fielder and he's playing a little bit of center. But because he didn't really have a stat line before I got here, I didn't know what to expect. And he's actually provided, a pretty good bat for Hyannis and a little bit of speed. He has 4 stolen bases. He's getting on base at a .318 clip. So that's pretty good off the bench. And he's, proved that if he is thrust into the starting lineup, like we saw last night, he's capable of, knocking in a run and getting on base. So he was someone that I did not have high expectations for, but he's come through here for the Hawks.
And just to add on to that, in the 15 games that he started in July, he's hitting .333. He's got 12 hits, including 3 doubles. So he really turned it on when he was given the opportunity after he kind of struggled in the first half of the season. I would have to completely agree. Gabe, who do you give this to?
I'm going to give it to Justin Lewis. I mean, the guy, you saw him in the first game against Bourne. He was lights out. And then you missed him a little bit, came back. He was a little bit rusty going on still in the bullpen. And then you get moved to the starting rotation, which for a lot of guys, you don't know how it turns out. For Lewis, it's turned out great for him. He had 2 great starts, another one where he struggled a little bit but still looked pretty good. And that's the biggest thing is when we talk about who steps up in the bullpen, I think Justin Lewis has been one of the biggest guys who have stepped up in that position where he mostly came as a reliever. You weren't sure what you were going to get out of him, and unfortunately, not all of his starts could have been for wins, but I think you're still impressed from what he gave you out of the bullpen and into the starting rotation.
Gabe, you touched a little bit on a player who dealt with struggles in the middle of the season and then came back, rebounded, and was even better. Brett Netzer, to me, was that guy. I mean, he was with Wareham to start the season, gets cut by the gateman, and then joins Hyannis because Coach Korn, I believe, took a chance on him, it was Coach Ron Polk took a chance on him and said, I really like this kid and how he swings. Netzer hit 350 as the leadoff man, and he stepped in, like you mentioned, when Truitt was gone. Stepped in center field, played great defensively, led this team through wins. I mean, he had 2 7-game hitting streaks on the season. So I thought that Brett Netzer, for everything that he went through, he really was the guy who not only surprised me, but kind of gave me this impression that he's going to have success later on in his career. Guys, as we wrap this up, I have to ask, who's the MVP of the 2016 season for the Hyannis Harbor Hawks? We'll start with you, Gabe.
I mean, it has to be Zach Rutherford. This guy came up from the very beginning out of Old Dominion. Conference USA is a great baseball conference because he was the only guy from his school to come up here, and guy with a compact swing. You weren't sure how great he was going to do. You didn't know he had that much power, but he starts racking up doubles, gets some home runs here and there, and just really gets on base. He was the guy that's always been up here for Hyannis. He was the MVP of the All-Star game. He started in the All-Star game. He was the full package for Hyannis. He was the guy from beginning to end that pushed your team every day to get wins.
Geoff, who you got?
I'm going to go with closer Garrett Cave. And, it's sometimes hard to give a closer an MVP award because you don't see them every day. But in this league with only 44 games, every game is so important. And particularly this season where we got into the playoffs in the second to last day of the season, if Cave isn't lights out every time, racking up 10 saves, we possibly are on the outside looking into the playoffs. So I'm going to look at Garrett Cave, and you saw what he did in the All-Star game, struck out all 3 batters he faced, goes to Chatham the next night, picks up a save by striking out all 3 batters he faces. So he was just fun to watch, and he was lights out for Hyannis all year.
Geoff, I want to add to that as well, because in the game right before the All-Star game, that Bourne game, when Hyannis was up 3 runs in the 9th inning, they lost 10-9, and because Garrett Cave was not available because he was pitching the next day, and that shows you just how impressive Garrett Cave and how much this team needed him. I mean, 10 saves, like you mentioned, in 17 wins. So, I mean, Garrett Cave and Zach Rutherford are 2 guys that made a huge impact on this team, no doubt. You and I have a little bit of different names on our sheets. Who do you pick, Luca?
Well, I'm going to throw it back to what Geoff said earlier, and I'm going to go with Chris Hudgens. I mean, he's a guy since June 29th is hitting over 300. 4 homers, 15 knocked in. Does a great job of controlling the running game. We've seen him snap throw a couple of guys off third, control stolen bases. We've talked to Justin Lewis, and he said he calls a phenomenal game. He has a great relationship with all of the pitching staff, and the best ability is availability. We've seen him, he played in 19 games. He had 1 full day off. Now, granted, he got pulled in some, got pinch hit for, but he had 18 out of 19 games that he played in as a catcher. That's unbelievable, and to keep doing what he's doing, he's got to be the MVP of this team.
To throw one more name in the mix, and Gabe knows who I'm going to say, Cody Henry is my MVP for this Harbor Hawks team. I mean, basically he won 4 games for Hyannis, 2 at Bourne, 1 at Wareham, and then 1 at Falmouth when he hit a 2-run shot to win the game 6-3. I think that Cody Henry down the stretch was fantastic. He figured out his struggles from the left side of the plate. He made the adjustments. On June 5th against YD, he was batting 154. He's now batting 270, and he leads this team in doubles and RBIs. I have to give the MVP to Cody Henry this season. Guys, last thing before we get out of here, most memorable moment of the regular season thus far on Cape Cod.
Well, I mean, they didn't have any walk-off wins, unfortunately, but then we all couldn't have had that. I'm going to go with the 1-0 win against Harwich that they get. Because, I mean, you talk about this team and struggling with runs. It would be foolish for me to say the one game where they score the most runs. But I think that's the biggest one where you saw Barnes in a great performance by him, one of his final performances. He got it done for a tough Harwich team that pitching-wise and Hyannis finds a way. Struggling as they do to get hits and runs, they do it against a Harwich pitching staff and gets a 1-0 win. I think that's a big win in general for them to get without scoring many runs.
Geoff, most memorable moment of the season for you?
I'm going to kind of go off of what you said with Cody Henry and one of those 2 wins that he provided at Bourne. I remember it was one of the first games I was up here, and last year, my last game at Bourne was the Western Division clinching game in the playoffs where we scored, I think, 4 in the 9th inning to punch our ticket to the finals, and it was kind of reminiscent of that. I think we scored 3 in the 9th this time around with Cody Henry lacing an opposite field single to score 2 runs and give us the lead. And in a divisional race like that, you have to beat the other teams in your division. Bourne has kind of been the team we were neck and neck with, and unfortunately it didn't turn out to be the race we thought it was, but at the time it was kind of a big boost for our morale and a big hit by Cody Henry.
I'm going to throw it back to the All-Star game because it was almost the perfect moment for everyone. We saw Zach Rutherford come up big. There's so many big names around him, and yet he's the one who comes through. Saw Garrett Cave just be absolutely phenomenal again. Saw Harrington very solid. And we saw Matt Naylor come in with 2 outs. I mean, what more could you ask for in an All-Star game?
And Cameron Este winning the home run derby.
It was just a perfect weekend for the Harbor Hawks.
Guys, I'm going to go with Jordan Rogers hitting a grand slam and then a 2-run shot at YD. That was probably my favorite game of the season. So back and forth. The emotions with the box just were outrageous. I mean, that was one of my favorite Cape League games that I experienced. Obviously, we have all experienced 42 regular season games up here on Cape Cod. Hyannis, they're going to head to the playoffs on Friday. They'll face a very tough Falmouth Commodores team. But tonight, the final regular season game against YD. Guys, thank you so much for joining us in this roundtable discussion to finish off the season. For Gabe Sustick, Geoff Short, and Luca Valentino, I'm Jack Keffer. Thank you so much for joining us on the special edition of Hawk Talk, and be sure to tune in to the 2016 Cape League playoffs.